Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another video covering Roster Mania 2024-2025. And so, before I get into the swing of things and I cover the main subject of this video, I gotta address the obvious and talk about the recent milestone that this channel just reached 4,000 subscribers. This happened a few hours ago at the time of this recording, and for it to happen at the end of 2024 and before the start of 2025, I can't say thank you enough. I've already done so in previous content pieces, but I'm gonna do the same thing. It's incredible that my channel has been able to reach this point after starting off this year with less than 400 subscribers to its name. And so, in doing so, I gotta give my thanks to everyone for making it happen. You guys have been watching my stuff throughout this entire year, been supporting me, and been giving me constructive criticism as to the things I should be better at. And be it good or bad, thank you so much for everyone for everything, and hopefully I can continue making more videos of this stuff in the future. All right, now getting into the main point of this video, I gotta talk about the continuation of the roster mania saga following Aspas. Aspas, need I say more about him? Duelist player from Brazil, one-time world champion, multiple-time domestic winner both in Brazil and also in Americas. Played for Loud from 2022 to 2023. Moved over to Leviatan for 2024 and continued his form individual prowess and helped that team win domestic titles and domestic honors and also come close to winning Champions 2024. Obviously, it didn't happen. They lost to Heretics and EDG in playoffs, but still, it doesn't take away their accomplishment. And so, from the end of the 2024 season, as I said in the previous video about him, uh, Leviatan and Aspas came into a bit of a rift that ultimately resulted in him departing from that organization and him looking for a new home. Ultimately, we're now reached a new chapter in this saga and potentially the closing chapter of this saga. As you can see right here in on the screen, a report was brought out by Bruno Pavoleri recently of VSpace talking about how MIBR is going to be the new home of Aspas after plenty of negotiations, plenty of time wondering about where he will land for his next team. It's now clear cut in stone that Aspas will be with MIBR, and the only thing that needs to be done is just make the announcement and just put pen into paper. And so, Aspas joining MIBR, it's basically unofficially official. Pivoting towards another report that was published by the same site, VSpace, by Bruno. It talked about how MIBR and Aspas came into a verbal agreement for his transfer to the Brazilian organization after spending this past season with Leviatan. And obviously, there is plenty of discussion and scrutiny as to what kind of led Aspas to ultimately return back to Americas after hinting towards possibly moving over to another region or another international league. But ultimately, what kind of decided his transfer over to MIBR as and what led to his verbal agreement with that org is fRoD. And as this report pointed out, they called fRoD's inclusion into, or more so fRoD's stint with MIBR as one of the main deciding factors as to why such a deal of this magnitude was made. Of course, fRoD and Aspas know each other very well. They have been teammates, well, kind of like together in Loud for 2022, end of 2022, and into 2023. fRoD back then was the analyst for the squad in around the time that the team won champions in Turkey, and then he was promoted up to the role of head coach after Bazooka left for MIBR for 2023 onwards. And so from that point on, fRoD and Aspas had plenty of time working together, building that camaraderie. Obviously, Aspas really liked fRoD as a coach and someone that can help him improve as a player and help him be a key contributor to the teams that we saw out of them. And so when MIBR saw the opportunity to bring Aspas in because of fRoD and just having them reunite together and kind of rekindle the old magic that allowed them to reach the mountaintop of Americas, then obviously MIBR jumped at the chance without fail. So moving back towards this most recent report, a lot more information and a lot more details has been disclosed regarding what is going to happen to the MIBR squad now that Aspas is going to join the team. If you guys remember from my previous interviews with fRoD, the team was kind of more focused on to just retaining the majority of the squad and sort of building that synergy chemistry into 2025. In fact, they were looking to retain the likes of Artisan, Mazine, Liasa, and Paula for next year. Rich obviously departed from the squad after their season wrapped up, as it has been reported previously, and so they were looking into adding in the likes of either QCK or Gu RVN. QCK, former duelist of Loud in 2024, someone who was infamously dropped to the bench amidst Loud's issues of just trying to have a coherent system at the middle part of the 2024 season. Gu RBN, someone who mostly plays as a controller but has been known to play different agents throughout his career, mostly playing within the tier 2 scene. His most recent team was Heroes Base in Brazilian Challengers, and one that obviously stood out from the rest of his peers to be looked at by a tier 1 squad such as MIBR. So you had these two players in the running towards joining the team for 2025. And obviously, once Aspas got into the picture of potential players joining MIBR, that changed everything. And more to the extent that, as this report points out, MIBR went from retaining 4 players into 2025 from the end of 2024 to only retaining 1 player, and that 1 player is going to be Artisan. Obviously, Artisan was playing as a flex after starting off the year as a duelist for the team, and so he's going to be the only player to stick with MIBR into 2025. The rest of the team is basically gone, and the people that will replace those 3 departing players will be Noswer, Xenom, and Cortesia. These are the 3 players that will be looking to join MIBR into 2025. Noswer, obviously, as I mentioned before, friend of Aspas, one that was originally looking to join Leviatan, or more so remain in Leviatan for the start of 2024 from the 2023 season. Obviously, Noswer was dropped in favor of Calm once Leviatan saw the chance to sign the latter player, and so that kind of got Aspas very angry at that. Still, he competed. You guys already know the story. Now, they're going to have the chance to play together as a unit, as finally a team for next season, and it'll be with MIBR. And you take into those two players, and in addition to Artisan, you already know what they're going to bring. But the question now brings us to who are the other 2 players that are looking to join MIBR, Xenom and Cortesia. And so Xenom's young player, mostly played in Brazilian challenges. His most recent squad is in Stellar Gaming, one of the many teams that ultimately fell short of reaching the top spots in the Brazilian tier 2 scene. Still, he was able to play a litany of agents throughout his career. Most recently in Split 2 of Brazil, he mostly played as a controller for Stellar Gaming, obviously distinguishing himself as one of the best players in challengers. And the same can be said for the other player in Cortesia. His most recent squad is Red Canids. Likewise, ultimately, that team would be in the same position as Stellar was in Split 2, kind of just coming up short from making the top spots of Brazilian challenges and maybe contending in Ascension, but still, that doesn't take away the skill that Cortesia showed for his respective team, and so much so in the final rankings for Split 2, when you include the regular season and playoffs, according to VLR, you see them as the highest two rated players in the region. And so obviously you look at those two players, and you obviously as if you're MIBR and you're looking at bright talent that can be a part of a core that can well last for multiple years. You're looking at these kinds of people. And with that said, it's no wonder that MIBR ultimately went for these two people for their squad into 2025. And so Zinam, Cortesia, Noswert, Artizine, Aspas making up the 2025 roster for next year. So here I have a visual lineup of how it will look based on their current roles and their past roles for the current or the presumed new MIBR lineup for 2025, and I have that compared to the previous roster at the end of the 2024 season. And so, as you have here, Aspas Duelist, come on, come on. And then now we're mostly playing as an initiator and IGO. All signs point to him retaining that position in his new team. Nasr was a part of Furia at the end of 2024. And at that point, when Nasr joined Furia, they were in a very tumultuous state, winless. And despite all of that, they were able to finish with a 3-2 record in Split 2 only. It's unfortunate that the records carried over from Split 1 into Split 2, and that kind of ultimately pushed them out of the playoff picture. But still, it just goes to show how much Furia improved with Nasr as the IGO, and one can expect the same kind of result to happen in the same way for MIBR into 2025 once you have him in addition to Aspas. Artizine mostly played as a flex in the previous squad in Split 2 due to how he played and how serviceable he was to the team, especially in Split 2. I mean, it's the expectation from my point of view that he'll probably retain that role into to next year. And so, with that said, where does the roles land for the final two people, Xenom and Cortesia? Because as I said, they have mostly been controller players for their respective teams for all of 2024. And so once you have them playing together for MIBR, then the question now goes into who's going to be the controller, who's going to be the sentinel, who might even be the flex, because who knows, like we've seen time and time again people that have gained a following by playing one particular role, and then once they join a major squad, they then adopt another role, and then once they're in that new role, then they ultimately become a better version of themselves. Obviously the number one guy that I'm looking at as an example is Tense. Going from duelist to controlling. So one can only wonder what fRoD might be thinking as to where he will put these two people in their new role. Where they might go to. And so for that point, I have the question mark next to them, but nevertheless, it really goes to show how much promise and how much excitement there is from the community as to this MIBR squad. And once you have Aspas into the picture, then your chances of contending for the VCT Americas title rises up drastically, up to the point to maybe, who knows, being the number one contender for that title, and maybe supplanting the likes of Sentinels and NRG, G2, Leviatan also. So I mean, now it's fair to say that MIBR won't be that basement team that we have expected them to be for these past 2 years. And so Aspas, game changer into MIBR, and one that we will expect now to be a much better versions of themselves for 2025. And so that said, Aspas into MIBR, it's all but official now. The only thing that needs to be done is the announcement, as was said by these two reports that I mentioned previously. And so definitely going to be looking forward to that team. And that's it. I'm going to wrap up this video right here. This has been Pedro Romero, and I will see you guys in the next one.